Video 3. Introduction to Investigation. Working with alerts, views, and actions. In this video, we continue looking at our case view, and we will dig into how to investigate an alert. The first thing we see on this view is a pending action, awaiting our input. This action in particular is named Investigate Further. So far in our investigation, we've gathered a lot of information, but I think we need more data before we can make a determination on what remedial action needs to take place. Click on the Respond button. The tab shows us all the entities involved, and at the bottom, an action for us to complete. The action is asking whether or not we want to investigate this case further or immediately escalate. We don't have enough information yet to know that, so let's select Investigate Other Activity on the host. This action will use the built-in Chronicle action in the playbook and send a query to our SIM environment that pulls other data from the host. This query is optimized for this particular playbook, and that can all be configured in the playbook. If successful, we'll see the action executed. We can now check our case wall for results, where we see details of the execution. The case wall will contain our comments, but also execution details of any actions, such as the results of the query. If we go back to our alert view, we will find a much more pleasing view of that, with a new widget for our UDM query. Scroll down so we can see what took place here. This query in particular will search the possible petabytes of data in our SIM for the suspicious domain manygoodnews.com. Talk about a needle in a haystack. By reviewing the events here, we discovered that not only did Steve Watson trigger an alert with this URL, but so did a machine named Mike Ross PC. In a typical scenario, we may be tempted to open our notebook or spreadsheet and jot this information down for further investigation. Here, we can go a lot smarter than that. Our playbook is actually configured to automatically add our new entity found, in this case, Mike Ross PC, to the alert, the case, and the investigation. Our security team engineered this in the response playbooks to happen every time this type of search is run on this type of event. You can see how Mike Ross's machine just showed up in our graph. This way, critical outputs of our work become contained in our case as entities. For example, should we decide that this is malicious and we want to contain the affected endpoints, this now becomes a click of a button. All the relevant endpoints are going to be tagged, and we won't end up forgetting something or wrangling notes. But let's say you happen to find another affected host or user in the course of this investigation. You can always add this as an entity to the case through the manual Add Entity. Now, what will the analyst see in the alert view? Good question. The alert view is entirely customizable, and not only can each playbook define a different view, but you can have different views for different roles. So, for example, a Tier 1 analyst gets the most important information, and a Tier 3 may get a lot more information. The idea here is that based on the type of alert you will see different information. If you're getting a phishing report, domain reputation may be important. This is configured through widgets, and we will see a few examples of these widgets over the course of this training. Let's look through a few examples. Once again, we were looking at our already familiar graph view. While it may appear redundant, this view is different from the case overview, as this is only for entities for this alert, versus all the entities for the entire case. The events info is another great built-in widget that gives us more information and a better visual of the events for this alert. This information is stitched together from logs in our Chronicle SIM. If you want to see the events themselves, you can browse the Events tab, which gives you access to the raw data of the event. You can look at highlighted fields or choose which field to highlight, This is also a very nice access point to the mapping section that takes our raw event data and maps it nicely to our graph. If you hover over, you can see exactly why this field is mapped to our hostname, and it shows up nicely in the graph and entities. But enough about this configuration. That is a more advanced topic. For now, it's good to know that it exists. Another tab that you should probably be aware of is the Playbooks tab that just shows the playbooks that are running associated with this case. Since this is a malware case, our malware playbook is executing, and you can see the decision we made to further investigate, and the corresponding searches and actions it took. Once again, playbooks provide a more advanced topic of discussion. But for now, what you should know is that each step of this playbook can be manual or automated. Each step can grab information that can then be presented to the user as data points, like in a widget or as a decision, like the action we were asked to initially take. But events and playbooks are often tabs for more technical users, and we will review them in our next video. Let's get back to our Overview tab. The Similar Cases widget shows us cases that are either gathered by the associated alert or by a triggered event. It further shows a match for similar entities or triggers from rules coming from Chronicle Sim. Similar cases are a great way to provide our analyst with reference points so they can get ideas for their investigation. The Host Events Trends section is an example of stats we can pull to determine if anything suspicious has taken place with this host. This is a great place for all these sim searches we do over and over again. Let them play in the background and just get the results ready to go the moment you open the widget. We have so far enriched data with our built-in SOAR cases and with data from our sim, and we were able to discover some correlations. But where you really multiply productivity gains is when you interrogate products and intel sources that you normally may need to swivel chair into, often just to get some information or perform an action. And you end up doing the same search or activity over and over again. With the built-in integrations and the ability to develop our own integrations, Chronicle SOAR truly amplifies the speed at which you can connect your security products. There's an extremely rich marketplace full of all kinds of connectors that you can configure, install, and extend. Today, we will walk through two of the most powerful and common out-of-the-box integrations, Mandiant Threat Intelligence and VirusTotal. Here are some examples of these integrations in action. Mandiant TI immediately tags the malware used here with the threat actor Conti. We can pull from our Intel database everything Mandiant researchers have provided about Conti. In this example, we can see that we're really talking about ransomware written in C and C++ that immediately should trigger our suspicion. Luckily, our playbook knew that, which is exactly why this entity is tagged as red and as suspicious. We can click into any of these to browse the Mandiant Advantage platform for other details and information. For now, we have what you could call a smoking gun, and it's time to take action quickly. Once we've decided to contain this, we can also start looking into VirusTotal Intelligence, which tags our respective URLs and domains as suspicious. It also gives us invaluable information of two different things that were seen in the wild related to this attack, such as this URL pattern here, or potentially the presence of a compressed parent called testfile.zip. All these will be good to look into eventually, but we've probably seen enough. To confirm further actions, we will refer to the MITRE ATT&CK enrichment. It should be appropriately tagged with the proper MITRE ATT&CK IDs and categories. You can see here we have suggestions such as training the user, which is a tomorrow problem, but also containing execution, which is exactly what we need to do right now. Wow, we've learned so much. So let's do a quick recap. We know that the user, Steve Watson, somehow accessed a malicious URL, manygoodnews.com, which is part of the malware campaign according to Mandiant and VirusTotal information. After Steve accessed the URL, an execution took place for a malicious file that, according to Mandiant, is related to the Conti ransomware campaign. But our powerful SIM detection caught it. Our SOAR enrichment elevated it, and our analyst was able to respond in time. Through our use of the UDM search widget, we learned that not only Was Steve Watson affected by this? But so was Mike Ross. Review of the Similar Cases widget tells us that this detection for this specific URL has taken place before. We've concluded the very basis of the case management and the alert overview. In our next video, we will give a high-level overview of some of the more technical things you can do with the case, like look at source events, configure mappings, explore playbooks, and more.